question about mics. I'm sorry, Steven's video. That's going to be on here. Okay, cool. Good.
Yeah.
5 minutes before.
I got.
When that
She's locked in.
She's
to
locked
vmix
in.
social right
Like
now.
that.
Like get the test going. We're good on that. Yeah, dude. We're good. We're rocking.
Good.
We're rocking and rolling. We got it going on.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I even wore the Yoshi hat in the first place was to stand out. So I'm trying to stay one step ahead. And if they start selling blue Yoshi hats,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm about to say, yeah. We didn't see something. Yeah.
Good morning, team. I hear you in the Zoom room.
Hello and welcome to Worship Summit Live. My name is Paul Richards, and I'll be your host today for this amazing day of worship technology education.
Paul's muted.
I can't be more excited about the lineup of guests that we have today. We are going to learn so much together in this exciting, fast moving kind of space where there's technology enabling us to spread the message of God and what we're worshiping for in our houses of worship. So excited today. Our first speaker, Stephen Heywood, is going to be talking about how to train volunteers. And so many of us are bringing the youth in, getting the youth involved, getting others involved, and we need to train volunteers and new media specialists and even kind of assistants that are becoming, starting to become on staff. I know at our church, we have several members on staff doing audio visual and running the live streaming and production software. And I know at Stephen's church, Shiloh Ministries in Ohio, they work with a lot of volunteers. So I'm really excited to talk to Stephen in just a few minutes about that. Next, we will have Jake Gosselin from Churchfront. And Jake is going to be talking about, actually, I'll be next. Sorry, I almost forgot about my presentation. I'm going to be talking about really where to place your cameras and how to go from just spoken word, which is where so many of us start, right? Zooming in on the pastor, to doing more to really bring the atmosphere of your worship
Recording
service
in
to
progress.
your online audience, and what you can do to exemplify that and make it really amazing. And then also, if you're doing music and performances, how can we really bring that to an audience? And tomorrow, so we're doing a 2-day event, and we're doing these every quarter. And I wanted to mention how important it is for us to continually provide education. At PTZOptics, we want to be more than just a PTZ camera that's enabling you to do live streaming and production, but we want to bring on guests, experts, and create a community. And I think we've done a really good job of that over the past decade that we've been in business, and we continue to support our House of Worship community by doing that. Next, we're going to have Jake Gosselin. Jake is using PTZOptics cameras at his church, and he's doing color correction. And he's showing how to add lighting and really set the mood of the atmosphere. So today is going to be packed. Who's after Jake? I think after Jake, we have Allan Bunt. Allan has come on Worship Summit so many times. Always so engaging what he's doing. I'm going to forget where he's from, so we'll find out soon. But his church is Grace Lutheran Church. And he's been doing some amazing things with music, always really thinking outside the box. So excited for Allan. And then finally, we'll end with Gary Bettan from the Video Guys. He's going to be talking to us about some of the things he believes important from using 4K cameras. He's a really big proponent of high quality video and the reasons why that's so important, and some of the challenges from a technical gear perspective. So with all that being said, I'm super excited. Today, we're going to have a giveaway where someone's going to win a PTZOptics Move SE camera. You must be watching live for that time. So scan the QR code, enter to win. And we'd love for your church to take home a camera. And it's just going to be so much great education. Again, we're doing this every quarter. So we're here in the springtime. We'll be doing it in the summer, winter, fall. We're a company. We want to be here for our customers and support House of Worship the best we can. That's why we do this. We will be in the chat room. There's a whole Zoom event that you can join. So if you haven't jumped into the Zoom event, check it out. You might even want to use it at your House of Worship. It allows us to do 2 tracks. So one track is the live stream and presentations. The second track is going to have our engineers, going to have technical experts where you can ask questions and get your questions answered. That's what this is all about, technical support, but also continuing education. So without further ado, let's hear from Stephen about his tips and some of the things he's learned about onboarding new volunteers into his ministry.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on again for Worship Summit. This is the Spring Worship Summit, and today we're going to talk about training your volunteers and some of the pitfalls that I kind of ran into. But I've got a special guest with me. I'm going to get to him in a little bit. Who I worked under him I had him work under me for many years, and now he is heading up everything and handling everything. And there's some pain points, there's some pros, there's some cons, and hopefully you guys will kind of learn from that. But before we get into that, we do have some housekeeping. I know a lot of you guys had asked in the breakout room with me last Worship Summit back in January, I believe it was, about Salt Talk. Yeah, we're going to bring Salt Talk back. Greg, Terry, and myself will be back hopefully in the month of June, if not July. We will be kicking that back off. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about everything that has to do with House of Worship, the pain points, the good, the bad, ugly. We'll even be bringing on different guests that are working in the House of Worship space as integrators and putting in cameras, sound equipment, you name it, they're going to be on here. But without further ado, I have with me my special guest for this presentation. I've got Pastor Cody Kendall, and he is heading up right now our ministry of media. Stage, yeah. You do a lot of that. I never did the stage thing. I know you enjoy that a lot. Be, here tomorrow, so I was going to go ahead and get everything. It's great to have you here. You're usually behind the camera, so I know this is new.
This is very different for me. On the camera, I try to hide as much as possible, but that's all right.
Well, I one of the things that I had brought up to you and talking with you and some of the things, growing a small church is difficult, trying to find volunteers. And I know a lot of people hit me up like, how do I get people involved? How do I do this? And, I started thinking about some of the pain points. One of the pain points I feel like when heading it up, when you were still in youth group and I was training you and everybody else, we always got those people. Do you remember? We got the people that wanted to be involved, but they really didn't want to be involved, right?
Yeah, I think people, we always try to get the youth involved. For whatever reason, this is a good avenue for the youth to be involved in the church. But sometimes you get the kids that they see the sound booth and they think it's just a place that they can go up and hide and hang out. So we have that problem, but you get that with adults too, what we found. Like someone who wants to serve, but they think it's just a place that they can go and hide, and we're not here to hide. We want to be involved. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That was something. And so one of the things when I was doing it, and I know it was kind of green, it was, I failed. I didn't put up a sign up sheet, and I would suggest folks, and not just put up a sign up sheet, but like hold your volunteers to this. I know when you're out of town, one of the things is you have your go-to guys, and that's something we can kind of dive into further. But at the time, it was just you and I for the longest time. It was we had nobody else. It was either you were there or I was there, or we were both there and we were both pulling our hair out. But
that's right. And and I do. I have my couple guys that I can trust on weekly, and then we have the sign up sheet for the rest of the people. We between the 5 or 6 that rotate each week. But sometimes a failure on our part is assuming and trusting in those volunteers a little too much. Even though they have a sign up sheet, you got to be on them. You have to be on them.
Reminding them, right?
Reminding them, yes. Putting a little too much faith and trust that they're just there to volunteer in their mind. Sometimes it's like, well, this is more than just volunteering. This is a church, and we're trying to represent in this church, the best as we can. We're not just here to have fun. Not that we can't have fun. We're not. That's not the only reason we're there. Like, we have to take it seriously.
We have to take it seriously. But I know it's kind of cool. Like, since I've kind of been hands off more, unless we get like a major catastrophe, and you and I got to put our heads together to try to figure things out. What I've found is, because I'm not up there all the time, these guys kind of have it down to where they go up there, they get everything situated, they get it set up, but they seem to forget something here or there. And then they call me up and I'm like, okay, what did Cody tell you? What are we? They're like, well, we're supposed to have something on this monitor. I'm like, okay, guys, you got to narrow it down for me. What's supposed to be up on this monitor? And, and so we go through things like that. But let's take, for instance, our live streaming device, right? We'll just use this as an example. We use a Boxcaster, which is a great device.
It is.
But we leave it on 24/7, and sometimes the guys forget to kind of reboot it or whatnot, and then the SDI will drop the audio. So they tell me, what's that?
And then you have a panic.
Well, right. So then they come to me and they're like, we're not getting audio, but I see it in the TriCaster, I see it in vmix, and I'm going, okay, well, where's the bottleneck here? So I've gotten to the point, like you were out with Mother's Day with your wife and your kid. You were camping. I didn't want to bother you, but it was like, okay, bother him for 2 minutes just to see if he's encountered this, or I'm going to be here for 20 minutes trying to tear this apart. And it could have been a simple change that you made, no problem.
Yeah.
You're like, yep, all you have to do is just reset it real quick. Boom, you're back in business. What's what we did? And I made sure to tell the guys, which I know you followed up with the following week.
Yep.
But again, going to your point is assuming that they know more than they are. Like, because I'm going in there thinking, man, they're doing this week in and week out with you.
Yes.
They got this down. I'm just there for moral support, right?
And they're great people, and they do their job well every week, and it's just. I think people just get nervous, right? Like they know it, and then you said as soon as you showed it, like when you called me and I told you just have to reset the box, you could hear in the background like, oh, I knew that.
Yeah, they started.
I know you did.
They started doing it. Well, and just to kind of show people, I'm kind of showing this here as we're We're going
There
to
you
talk
go.
over. This is like an older setup. Cody has cleaned this up tremendously. We'll have to show it in a future Salt Talk episode, so
Yeah.
you'll have to tune in. We've got a rack now underneath the table, but this is the extent of our setup. And I mean, how many guys do you have running this usually weekly? 2 or 3?
Well, so we have during worship we have one crew, and during the sermon we have another. But yeah, usually there's 3 people up there at any given time. At least 2, but usually there's 3 people up there, at all times.
Yeah, and you guys are seeing our security personnel, sometimes they'll be up there kind of watching that monitor that he has mounted up there that has the multiple security cameras in the building, making sure everything is
Yep.
is okay. And
Yeah, it's a nice little perk of being up high there. They get a little vantage point.
Yeah, and we've tried to streamline this a lot. One of the things I'm going to kind of cut back to us here. One of the
Mhm.
things that I think we did very, very well in this is we were taught by senior pastors Ken and Linda, where you always want to train your replacement. You want to train the person that's going to take your spot so you can move on to bigger things in ministry
Exactly.
as you're led, right?
Yeah.
You and your wife, your youth pastors, you guys, you can't be up there the whole service.
Yes.
You just can't.
Nope. We have other duties, and even during the morning before the church starts, you get things running, but I can't be up there the whole time either. You have to be present with the congregants. You need those other people that you can trust, and they know what they're doing. Yeah.
So we've had some older folks. We've had some folks that were, I believe Debbie was in her early 70s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's no age range that nothing's pigeonholed on this age you have to be. We've had all ages. We've had your kids up there when they were young, helping me out.
We had nobody. That was during COVID.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you now, how do you approach it? Because I know a lot of people are like, well, how do I get the youth involved? How do I get them to where they're not just sitting up there falling asleep like Zach tends to do?
Yeah.
I'm just busting on Zach. Zach's really good at what he does. How do you approach even the older folk that you think maybe would be good up there because of their attention to detail?
Well, that's honestly a hard thing to do. To get people involved in the church is honestly a complication that we have. We have sign-up sheets usually for, is this what you would like to do, with the other areas in the church, not just for the sound booth. But that's one of the ministries that is a volunteer. But frankly, it's just about watching people. You get a feel, watching someone, would they be good at this? That's why we kind of work with the youth more, because they're so technology oriented that it's just easy for them to get up there and do it. But the equipment we have is not difficult to use at all either. It's very easy to use, and that's why we can have someone of 70 years of age doing it versus someone that's 10. We can do it.
I think it's important because we don't discriminate. But I know a lot of ministries are like, well, I don't know if I could teach somebody like that. But honestly, you've got it streamlined to the point. You took it one step further than I ever did. I always just told you, Cody, this is how we do it. This is how we wired it together. Well, why do we do it like that? Because it works like that. Because at the time our budget was shoestring tight, right? So we would cobble things together, and I think that made you and I better over the years.
We cobble things together, that's for sure, and that's why we did a major cleanup in our whole setup.
That's why you did it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
but I think that's made
yes.
you. But I also think that's made you better in the aspect of things, because you've learned, like, okay, this person learns better if I document it. You have a notebook up there where you actually, I mean, literally to the point where he says, okay, turn computer on, next step, press start button or whatever. I'm just saying.
But that's
it's literally,
what it is. Yeah, I've tried to. Yeah, I have a little cheat sheet startup list that you have to have a little bit of know-how of the equipment that's up there, but someone who at least has been shown that, like, what this computer is, then they can walk through that list, and they should be able to do the startup and run the systems for the most part. I actually, one of my team members just gave me an idea, and last last Sunday about like I should just make some videos. I should just do a walkthrough videos of everything, like turning on the equipment on the stage and
Yep.
this computer, the soundboard. If I just make a quick little video, of each section, then they can just reference that video. So yeah, we're always trying to make it as streamlined and easy as possible.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I'm not up there every week, so I don't necessarily know how everything is, because I haven't been on it. So I tend to ask more than I end up doing because the questions usually figure themselves out. So transitioning to that, they asked you to do videos. So one of the things that I thought I did pretty well was I would tell you this is how we do it, this is how it's set up. But if you find a better way, if you find a faster way, a more efficient way, by all means do it, and then just run with it. And a lot of times when you're not there and your volunteers are there, that's the first thing I ask them. Well, how did Cody show you how to do it? Because I don't want to undo something that's already it's working, right? So if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Yeah. So, is that something you would suggest to people? Is that openness? I know a lot of ministries are like, no, you're going to do it this way, and that's it. And we know a couple of those ministries.
Yes, we do. But in that aspect, I'm always willing to hear new ideas. Like, for example, when we have someone who's hard of hearing in the sanctuary, and we didn't have a very good way of them to be able to listen to the message, even though they're sitting in the sanctuary. They just, with the hard of hearing, they were having difficult listening to the service. So we had like a workaround of they were listening to the stream on an iPad while they were watching, and there was a delay. It wasn't great. Mm-hmm. And it was such a simple solution, but one of the volunteers just said, why don't we get some Bluetooth speakers and we can connect them to the output of the TriCaster? Well, then they have real-time feed, and the Bluetooth speaker, they can listen to it anywhere in the church. So it was like such a simple solution. Why didn't I think of that? But the volunteer, he gave me that idea. So yeah, that was an awesome idea.
So the key takeaway from that, guys, is listen to your volunteers, because what's going to happen. People are going to comment on this video after the fact, and they're going to say, hey, you guys mentioned, can you do a video? See, they're going to ask you to do a video on how to do that, because that is a challenge in a lot of the churches. I've mentioned many times we have that Behringer X32. You run it more than I do. I know enough. I go in the app, I set my monitor, and then that's it. Like, we had a new gal join our worship team. She was up there singing, so we made some changes. The other guys didn't know how to save it. So I told her, I was like, you got to bear with us, because next week we're going to have to change it again when Cody comes back so he can save these settings. So it makes it,
And there's certain things like the Behringer board, the one wonderful thing about it is you make a scene on it and you can reload mostly anything that's changed. So it's kind of foolproof. Like, you don't have to worry about it too much if someone bumps some sliders by accident. But at the same time, it's like, spend a lot of time getting that thing set. Like, that's one piece of equipment you probably don't want the average volunteer to really be messing with. But, as you get people that you trust more, that's something that I'll teach them more. So, like, saving scenes, you have to start to getting into the settings of the board, and you start allowing people more trust into that piece of equipment.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we've done is, you're seeing here now, is a clip where, when we used to do like the baptismals, we'd have, it was easy with teenagers because they all got phones, right? So we could set it up with the NDI or something and have them transmit a camera. Everybody's taking pictures, but we've always found that this is helpful, for the older people that are sitting in the back. Maybe they can't, see what's going on. I like to see, you're always pushing the envelope. You're always changing things. Maybe I got stagnant with things that was just running smooth. I was happy that it was running smooth. But how would you say to people that are trying to do this, making upgrades? This is always a pain point, and I'll kind of take you back to Dante. We've never played with Dante. You called me, and we got the card for the board. I told you roughly about how it went, but you had it working by Sunday.
Yeah, we and that was something that we needed to do when, years ago we swapped from the old analog soundboard and the Yamaha, whatever it was, to the X32. So we had that equipment, but it never talked right with the TriCaster until we had the Dante X, the expansion cards.
Yeah.
And so once we just didn't have the know-how. We had the guy that could do it, but he was always so busy. We just weren't able to do it. So finally
Cody's
said,
like,
"All right,
I'm doing
I'm
it."
just going to give him my best shot." So, and Dante was just something that we never messed with
No.
at the church before. So that was something we had to learn through. Making sure we had installing the expansion card correctly, and then the virtual sound card on the TriCaster and the Dante controller, making sure everything was talking right. So, but yeah, once we figured it out, it's great. But yeah, like you said, you get used to something running smoothly. You don't want to mess with it. It's like, why touch it if it's not broke? But you can't make things better if you're not willing to at least mess with them a little bit.
Yeah. So I would also say, if you can think of another way to do things, talk it out. Because even if you, like me, I'm in broadcasting, I'm engulfed in it for the last 20 years. I've been doing it. You've been, doing your due diligence now that you're doing the stuff at the church. One of the things that we started running into problems with, we were running vmix as an encoder. We took TriCaster, ran it into vmix, and that was basically our encoding machine, right? The TriCaster never did it. Well, then the machine that we had been running with that started to get to the point where it was on its last legs. I mean, let's just be honest. It was
graphics card it could no longer handle the vmix. Yep.
So we're looking at, we're like, okay, we're already paying for the highest end vmix. Now we're looking at maybe a $2,000-$3,000 card, and we stumbled upon the Boxcaster, right? And the folks over there, they sent it out, and that has been tremendous. Who needs another computer? And this makes it easier because now you're scheduling out broadcasts for the church, even when you're not going to be there. So it's one less thing that the volunteer has to do, and it's right because you set it up.
Yeah, it's one less thing that the volunteer has to remember to hit that button to go live. It does it for you, and honestly, because of it, we no longer had to use a whole computer. We were able to bypass part of our system. So now the Mac Pro is just a server for recordings. But the Spark, the Boxcast Spark, it's fantastic. Yeah, we've only been using it for about a month, or maybe a little over a month, but being able to schedule out, I've only been scheduling about a month at a time, but I know that come 10:15, the time that I have it scheduled, it's going to go live. And as long as we remember to reset it in the morning, it works great.
So I think some of the things, there's not really a lot of pitfalls except for the pitfalls of the leadership, right? It seems like, if I look back at it, and I think if we were both honest, there's a lot of things we as leaders probably could have done better to make it easier for the volunteers, but the volunteers have adapted to us, right, in our ways, that they really made it work. Because the last thing the pastor wants to do is get up there, and I know one of the things that you did, and you really find out who's in it and who's not, is you did a training. You said anybody wants to get involved in this, they signed up. You did a training after church. They did a lunch. I just kind of sat in the back and let you took it, you ran with it, and I just kind of was observing. By the time you were done with it, I think 3 of those people actually stuck it out. The rest of the people kind of are like, yeah, this isn't for me.
This isn't what I wanted. And, of all the people, I don't know, we probably had like 10 or 15 people that stayed in.
Yeah, you had a lot of people that were interested.
And like you said, about halfway through, they were all like, nope. Half of them have figured out this isn't what I was interested in volunteering with. I'd say, of that group, probably 2 have stuck it out, and thankfully one of them is my next main guy up there. But
he's always willing to learn, and so I would suggest that out there to those wondering, like, what can I do to see if a volunteer is truly interested, going to be truly connected. Let me tell you, as somebody that observed that, put on a training. Say, this is what we go through on a Sunday. Show them what you're going through, and you'll find out really quick if they're in it for the long haul or if they're just like, as you said earlier, just going to hide somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I keep saying it, but yeah, and maybe it's just because I'm a youth pastor at the church, but we've had great luck with the youth kids, and I love working with them up there. They they really get into it, and I don't know if they just think it's cool because of all the equipment and stuff. I mean, I think it's cool too, but they really enjoy being up there, and I I love teaching them. We have a couple of the youth kids that are really into it. We have one who's relatively new. They just started coming to the church, a couple months ago, and I found out he was involved in his last church a little bit with the sound equipment. So I started working with him upstairs, and his mind's blown. He's like, "This is so much more than we ever we ever had. I just had like one little computer before."
But you know what? That was something that was a vision of mine, because here we are, like where the church is at is in Western PA, Bone Western PA. It's either you go work at a factory or you're a farmer or whatever.
Yeah.
Like when I was doing this, my hope was that kids would start seeing this. Like when I got you involved and some of the other youth that aren't there anymore, was that like, hey, there's a bigger world out there besides what your parents went through, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's more opportunities out there, not just in church, but in video and technology. And I watch you doing that with the youth, like my kids especially, because now my daughter's thinking about doing this for a living, like following, and dad's been hands off. Dad's been like, you do what you want to do, but she sees the possibility. She does my productions when I go to conventions. You're there a lot of times supervising,
Yeah. At this point, we've been doing shows together for a long time. Yes, and at this point, I enjoy being able to take a step back, and like you said, I just supervise your children now and let them do it. And, it's the new generation.
But I know there's a time, and I will tell folks this, that if you said to Cody about going to NAB with me, he'd probably second guess that, because I was brutal on him at NAB. We that's the running joke, where I didn't let him eat for like 13 hours or something like that.
Yeah, the 50-pound live stream.
Oh my goodness, the live view.
On the backpack. Yeah, the change is just that we've gone through. Yeah.
But I would say, folks out there, the smaller the church, you might think that it's harder, but honestly, I think for us it's been easier, because we've been able to get closer to people, and really be there to help them. And you hit a lot of good things where you said about listening to your volunteers, the people that are working with, just like that. You solved a problem that I know you and I struggled with for a while. I won't say for you, I was overcomplicating it a lot of times, looking for a solution to overcomplicated things a lot of times, but it's kind of how my mind works. But to see how things change, just even hooking up TVs where we were able to daisy chain it and make our life easier for like overflow rooms and stuff. Sometimes the least technical person can sometimes come up with the most technical answer in response to what you need. I think it's great. I think that a lot of churches out there, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, however you're consuming this, you need to take some of these words that he's speaking about right now and say, yeah, I really need to listen to my people. If you articulate, and the last thing before we got to wrap this up, a lot of people complain it's hard to get up money for upgrades. It's hard to get money for equipment. I know you can tell them as much as I can tell them. Our pastor is the first one to prove why we should not do something. If we come at them with, these are the pros of why we should do this and how it's going to save money in the long run, or it's going to help the production. He's all about top-notch production. It doesn't matter the cost.
That's right. Well, we've always had the idea in our church of everything we're doing here is for the glory of God. So we're not going to skimp on something and cheapen the word that we could be spreading to others. So, but back to the technical side, if we're going to spend this amount of money on a new computer, is it better to spend $800 now and have to spend it again in 2 years, or can we spend $2,000 now and be good for 10 years? And that's what we always do. We get good lifespan out of our computers.
Yeah. And so I would suggest putting together a list and pros and cons, and do it to yourself. Do it with your team. Get your team together and sit down and say, just like Cody and I, we've done that many times, just him and I, because it was just him and I. What are the pros of doing this? What are the cons of doing this? Is this going to mean we have to rewire everything? Is that is that rewiring really necessary? I mean, really dig into it and then present it to the pastors, because then they're going to see that you covered all your bases, and they're going to be like, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. I think that's a huge takeaway. You can't be afraid to do your legwork and really iron out what you want and how you want it. Because they don't know. That's not their job. It's your job to do that.
Well, they're trusting you that you're doing that work for them, right?
Right.
Our senior pastors are not in charge of the sound booth because they don't know what's going on. Like, they don't know how to operate that equipment up there. So they're trusting us to come to them with that knowledge that we're, we know the best of what we're presenting to them. And in the end, it's not our money, right? It's God's money.
It's God's money.
We have to be good stewards of that.
Well, Pastor Cody, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. I know you got a jet, but I want to thank the folks at PTZOptics also for having us. And we're going to take you back now to more of PTZOptics and the guys in the studio.
Hi, everybody. Wow. That was so cool. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Pastor Kendall. So cool to see what they're doing at Shiloh Ministries. A new thing that we're trying is we're going to be playing worship music in between sessions. So let me cue up River Church for a short musical performance.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, he spoke to the dark, fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so alive, I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises, so alive. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. Once you have spoken, from nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. It all reveals your nature so alive. I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. Creation still obeys you so alive. dead, the light of the world abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I can find it here. If you left the grave behind you so alive, I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art for gladly chose surrender so alive. I can see your heart a billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you chose to save. If you gave your life to love them so alive, like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoy the worship music today, along with the educational presentations. I thought it'd be fun to blend in. That's what we're all here. What we're all here for, right? So let me know in the chat, in the comments, if you enjoy the short breaks for music. Don't forget, you can win a PTZOptics camera today, and you can scan the QR code to do so. My presentation today is going to be on House of Worship camera positions. So really excited about this. Let's jump in. So you can put your cameras, anywhere, right? And I'm sure you can get a good view. But today I want to give you some tips about where to place the second camera, where to place the third camera, and how they can add to the atmosphere that you're trying to capture inside your house of worship. And we'll start with a couple of things. First of all, video ministry matters, right? A thoughtful video strategy is going to help you grow, whether we're talking about growing your online presence, growing the amount of strangers that you meet, right? The amount of new members that you meet, the amount of people that you affect, the amount of people you're able to spread the message to does come down to your video ministry in a lot of cases. And camera placement impacts the emotional and spiritual engagement that they will feel when someone shares your live stream or a video from your live stream. And there's two really main styles of worship. One is spoken word. The other is live music. And spoken word needs to be kind of clean, and we want it to be centered, and we want it to be kind of eye level, so it feels like from a viewing perspective, you're really in the room listening. Now, from a music perspective, we want to be expressive. We want to show wide angles, and then we want to show close-ups, right? We want to really show what it's like to be on stage and what it's like to be in the pews and what it's like to be worshiping along to the live music. And then, of course, if you're like many, many churches and houses of worship, you blend spoken word with live music. And so I'm going to talk about where you put the cameras for spoken word and where we put the cameras for live music. And so many of us have this blended style where the first half is spoken word, the second half is live music, or vice versa. And briefly, I wanted to mention that many cameras can be controlled remotely today. So if you put a camera in one location, let's say we end up putting a camera in the back of your house of worship, you can get a tight shot and a wide shot of multiple angles with one single camera. So that camera control becomes a very powerful piece of your video system, the ability to have a camera operator. This is a joystick controller. This is the PTZOptics Super Joy, which you can enter to win one of these for your house of worship at the Worship Summit this session. And I also wanted to show what a PTZ preset is. So a PTZ preset allows you to go from one shot to another. So you can have the camera move and zoom in at the same time just with the click of a button. And these robotic cameras, these PTZ cameras, are so easy to use these days. You can zoom into a beautiful stained glass church window. And you can see the image of Jesus here that we can zoom into. And we can set a number on the button and click that button, and boom, the camera will go right there. Now, another thing that's happening and is becoming really popular is the ability to have camera control on any laptop, any computer that you can find, whether it's a MacBook here or a Chromebook, can start to become a PTZ camera control solution. And this is so powerful for bringing in volunteers, whether they are on site at the house of worship or remotely these days. You could be at home, you could be at the headquarters church, and just through a web browser or through PTZOptics Hive, as we're showing here, you can zoom in and control these cameras from anywhere in the world. And one of the things I want to do today is I want to share access with the PTZOptics Hive in the studio that I'm in right now to give you all access in the Zoom chat here if you want to control the cameras from where you are right now, and you can control the cameras in this studio. I just want to show you guys how easy this is. You can see we're getting volunteers. They click a button, they use their mouse, and they can so simply and easily control the robotic cameras that it makes training these volunteers, they get excited. They want to be part of it. It makes sense to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you access to the cameras in my studio. This is PTZOptics Hive here. This is a really cool new solution for controlling PTZ cameras. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the share button, and I'm going to share with you guys the producer link, okay, in the Zoom chat. So if you click this link that I'm just sharing with you and I copied there, you will be able to control the cameras in my studio. And I just want to do that so that you can see how easy it is to control cameras from anywhere in the world. And that comes into play when you look at this interface. You can have presets that show you exactly where the camera is going to move. So we don't have to worry so much about training the volunteers on something that's complicated like a broadcast switcher. Now it's just point and click. And really, I've been doing this for a long time. This is a complete game changer, allowing you to be at home, be at a coffee house, be able to control the remote churches or the satellite church campuses that you have, all from one space. So really, really cool. And one of the things that is amazing is when we combine the ability to set a PTZ preset with the ability to have image magnification, and we actually put the cameras in the right place, we can capture so much of the atmosphere. And Denny, yes, you will need to create a login to use PTZOptics Hive. So you do need to make a login. It's going to ask you to log in. Just create a login, and then you should be able to get right in. So the other thing that's really important as well is being able to adjust these cameras for lighting. And I've even the best churches, so with the biggest teams, have some trouble with color correction when they're not adjusting for like candlelight services. Now adjusting for this stuff is just so easy. And I see Tony's already in here, and Tony's controlling the camera. So Tony created an account and got in. Now I can see him right here controlling the cameras, and looks like everybody's filing in. We've got Brandon coming in. We've got Leroy coming in. Excited for you guys to try this. But you can see here, we can do all the controls, and all the color correction and changes can be done so easily. So even if you're at home watching the worship service at your church, you can say, hey, I just want to just dial in this color to be correct. I just want to adjust the lighting just a bit to make it perfect. And you can do that in real time from anywhere in the world. So things are changing, right? Things are getting easier to use. And now I want to just show you kind of where to start putting the cameras. Because if we put the cameras in the right places and then give you easy access and to be able to control them, things really start to look amazing. And on a very affordable budget, you can create beautiful worship services that are really engaging. So camera 1 is generally your first camera, right? We usually put it right in the back, right in the center. We capture a wide shot when there's a choir, right? Or we capture a more medium, tight shot when we are doing a sermon, right, for the pastor. Now, when we're doing music, this back shot is great for the wide angle. We really get to show all the people in the pews. We get to show the beautiful music that's happening, but it can also be used for a tight zoom. So if there's a presentation or a singer that you want to zoom into, you can click a button and you can zoom in. Now this is my church, First Presbyterian Church in Westchester. If you're doing spoken word and you're not doing any music, it's going to look different, right? Your lighting is going to be different, but you can do a nice wide shot and you can do a tight zoom from the same exact camera. So you can do a lot with robotic PTZ cameras. And as we step through to camera 2, and I'm going to take you all the way to camera 7, I'm going to give you some of the ideas, some of the PTZ presets that, I don't know if I showed this slide. I think I might have had. Let me go back. I don't know if I showed this to get the wide angle and the tight here for spoken word. As we start to add more cameras, we're going to be able to strategically place them in the right places. And camera 2, if you're doing music, gives you that secondary perspective. It's beautiful for sermons. This is called a slash angle. It's roughly 45 degrees off center, aimed at the stage. And for music, it provides like the dynamic kind of emotional connection to the musicians. It's ideal for capturing like the side view of the instruments. You can even widen it out a little and get the congregation's reaction. And it's a really beautiful supporting wide angle. Whether you're doing wide or a tighter zoom, this camera 2 really brings viewers into the experience. So if you only have 2 cameras, you can either put them both at the back, like this, if you mainly do spoken word, or as we showed in my presentation, you could do one on a slash angle at the 45 degrees, which is really nice for musical performances. So this is really popular here to go ahead and put that second camera on that 45-degree slash angle over here so that we can do these beautiful side angles. So whether you're doing spoken word and you're doing both at the back and you're getting multiple tight angles or a wide and a tight, as soon as you get that second camera in place, now you have something to cut to. Now you have something to transition to. You can move camera 1 to a wide angle, and then with camera 2, you can use that joystick controller or your PTZOptics Hive software. I see many of you are in here. Great to see you guys. And you can start to control the camera while it's not live, right? Queue up your next event. You can see all these little images down here of where you could potentially move the camera. Now, camera 3 is our storytelling camera. This is the camera that we can really start to get creative with. We can really tell the messages of what's going on in the house of worship. And if you're doing music, this is your opposite slash angle, right? So you're kind of creating like a triangle here where you've got your tight shot from either sides and you have your wide angle center shot. So camera 3 is almost always going to be on either the left or the right slash angle, even if you decide to put camera 2 towards the back. And camera 3 can do so many great things. I'm going to show you some examples. It's great for tight angles, for your storytelling camera. It's great for a secondary wide angle from the side. It's a really great dynamic storytelling camera. We see this camera very popular for House of Worship productions. And it's a great tight angle for showing a side angle for spoken word. It's a nice profile sermon shot to give it a more cinematic feel. And PTZOptics cameras now offer auto tracking. So you can set this camera to automatically follow your pastor during spoken word. And you can have camera 1 and camera 2, or camera 1 and camera 3 automatically following the pastor. We've made it so easy to auto track now that you can really do a lot with a small team. You know, even if you need to use PTZOptics Hive to control the cameras remotely and get your pastor or someone on your board access to the cameras to help out, you can do so much today. So I wanted to mention also this wide angle in camera 3 here at the bottom. This is our church at Westchester First Presbyterian. We use this side angle shot to shoot backwards and show the children and the children's ministry manager. And here she is doing a presentation. So it's kind of shooting back a little bit towards the pews, but also capturing the front area of the stage where the students are. So really great storytelling camera, very dynamic. Different things happen at the church at different times, and this is a great option to be able to kind of be dynamic and do different things with these cameras. Now, camera 4 is our reverse view camera. This is a really powerful camera. It's often mounted high behind the stage, facing the congregation, but can be used as a bird's eye or over the shoulder camera for the pastor. And this is a really, really powerful camera. I noticed that at Shiloh Ministries, they use this camera for a drummer angle. So oftentimes you can kind of see the drummer, but you can also see a little bit of the worship area in the background. And then you can use this as a really interesting secondary third, fourth camera to give tight angles of people who are singing on stage. So I love the fourth camera angle here, this reverse camera angle. Once you've got obviously camera 1, 2, and 3 set up, camera 4 is so versatile. You can show the worshipers in session, and you can also show the viewers, their family members, right? And who's actually attending. So it's a really powerful camera angle. I've seen this camera used to follow the pastor into the pews. You know, some pastors really like to walk out into the audience, and I've seen this camera used as a tracking camera, and I've seen it used for at our church here to do a wide angle when the worship community is standing up and singing and part of the worship service. So it gets used in a lot of different ways. Camera 4, the reverse view, is amazing. Now, camera 5 is what we call the dynamic center. It's basically your secondary straight on camera. It's near camera 1 at the back center, and it's kind of your flexible coverage shot, right? So you've got camera 5 there so that you can get a secondary close-up of a singer, of a instrumentalist. You can see here, sometimes you've got 2 main singers, right? Or 2 main pastors like we do at my church. We have, an assistant pastor and a senior pastor. And we use this camera number 5 to capture both of those pastors. So whether you have 2 singers or 2 pastors speaking, you can get multiple tight angles on stage with camera 5 for your spoken word. And it adds a lot of flexibility when you've got multiple speakers or events happening. You can isolate, you can do auto tracking and isolate specific solo speakers or alternate lectern positions, as I do at our church. We have multiple lecterns. It's really useful for tracking special guests. And if you want, it can be an alternate wide shot, right? And especially for spoken word, that straight on shot, as you can see here with camera 1, gets you the wide, and camera 5 gets you the tight, right? So you can alternate for the straight on shots, which is ideal for spoken word, right? You want to be straightforward, centered, and ready to go. Now, camera 6 is our wireless camera. So camera 6 can move around and add a lot of energy to your production. So setting up a wireless camera is not that hard. You can get a camera like we were looking at earlier, which is like a DSLR camera or a camcorder, and use a wireless transmitter. Or if you're interested in just trying something out with wireless connectivity, you can use Wi-Fi, and you can actually use your smartphone. So there's actually an app called the NDI camera app that you can use with Wi-Fi to turn your smartphone into a full 1080p HD camera that you can walk around with on stage. So This adds just so much energy. It can be used for powerful live moments, walk and talk coverage. It can really capture like close up shots of musicians and candid choir reactions. So I really like this shot. It's great for community moments. You can see that there. And then again, if you're following the pastor or showing kind of what it's like to be in the pews, this is a really energetic shot that so many of us use. And then camera 7 is the atmosphere camera. So camera 7 is used to really display the atmosphere. So it's similar to the reverse camera. You might not need to go all the way up to 7 cameras. Let's be honest. Am I getting a little crazy here? Well, it definitely happens. There's definitely many churches that I talk to who have more than 7 cameras. But this camera is adding atmosphere, right? It's showing the pews. It's showing something close up on stage. It is following specific areas. Now, if you end up having 7 cameras, you're going to probably want something like PTZOptics Hive, where you can have 7 camera operators in different locations with different laptops, different computers. All you need is a laptop to be a camera operator these days. So if you have aspirations to get up to 7 cameras, things like PTZOptics Hive and joystick controllers are really, really helpful. Now, I want to leave you with one kind of interesting product feature from the PTZOptics SuperJoy. A lot of people don't know about this, and I know so many of you have the PTZOptics SuperJoy. There is something called a super preset. And what that does is you can set up one of these custom buttons here, and with one click, you can set multiple PTZ cameras to move to different locations. So you could have one custom button 1 set up for baptism, custom button 2 set up for a center stage, custom button 3 set up for a different area, right? Music. And you can click one button and move all of your PTZ cameras. So if you're like so many churches that I know who have kind of predefined sessions, right? We know there's going to be a sermon. We know there's going to be a hymn. We know there is going to be music. We can set up all of our cameras to move so that if you end up with only one camera operator, but you have 4 cameras, this is the way to move them all and get them in place and ready as your sessions proceed. So really cool stuff. That is what I have for you guys today. I hope it was helpful. I am going to be in the Zoom meeting here, and I'm going to be joining the Zoom breakout room so that I can answer questions. So I just love having the worship summit, and I enjoy this every year. I'm going to leave you guys with a really beautiful worship song that we'll sing. And then next will be, I believe it's Jake Gosselin. So I think Jake's coming on, and he's got some really, Jake is such a good friend of mine. I got to meet him in person recently and love what he's doing at Church Front. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. I'll see you guys in the Zoom breakout if you want to chat. And if you want to stick around for Jake's session, I don't blame you. It's going to be cool. I'll see you guys soon.
A wall in my path, my mind besieged on every side, my confidence like water, melted ice that fled away, and this aching in my bones, courage slipping through my fingers, and fears emerge around me like shadows in the sand. I lift my eyes to heaven, but all I see is clouded skies. I struggle for some reason, but my sanity's denied. My hands are weak and calloused. The days are harder still. My lonely cries are drowned out, just echoes in the wind. But I will not compare the promise of this world with the glory of the grace you've shown to me. And I won't idolize the fortunes of a neighbor or let my heart run to jealousy. Even though my eyes can't see, and I hear the enemy shouts, I will wait for rescue. Won't be defined by doubts, for you are God. Without you there's no other authority to turn to in this hour. Come to me, I ask you to remember I am yours. My heart I have surrendered. God, I trust in you. I call to you. I worship you. I will not compare the promise of this world with the glory of the grace you've shown to me. And I won't idolize the fortunes of a neighbor or let my heart run to jealousy. Even though my eyes can't see, and I hear the enemy shouts, I will wait for rescue. Won't be defined by doubts, for you are God. Without you there's no other authority to turn to in this hour. Come to me, I ask you to remember I am yours. My heart I have surrendered. God, I trust in you. I call to you. I worship you. Oh, God, I trust in you. I call to you. I worship you. Oh, God.
Hello there, my name is Jake Gosselin with Churchfront. We're a media, an education, and an AV installation company, and I'm very honored that the team at Worship Summit Live and PTZOptics invited me to be here with you guys today. And in today's training, what I think would be the most beneficial for this community is helping you guys get really great results with your lighting system and your camera system at your church as quickly as possible. Right now, I'm actually here at Rock Harbor Church in Florida. So this is my home church. And the camera feed that you're watching, these are actually the PTZOptics 4K Move cameras. So we've been using these cameras now for over a year. Been very pleased with the results. You guys can see the results. They kind of speak for themselves. These cameras are just very capable. Right now, I'm actually sending the video feed from these PTZ cameras over NDI into a software called Ecamm Live. And then from here, I'm able to switch between two different camera NDI feeds. And then, of course, I'll be able to show you guys my screen as well later on when we get into that part of the presentation. So to start off, the most important thing I want to help you guys understand when it comes to improving lighting and camera quality for your church's live stream, it all starts with the light. That's why before I actually dive into the camera settings, such as the exposure, the gain, the ISO, the shutter, the aperture, these very common terms that you're going to come across as you're starting to work with the camera, it's really important to first get the lighting right at your church. Here at Rock Harbor Church, I'll give you a little bit more context of our space and kind of what it looks like here. So I'll pan around. We are a very traditional type of worship space here. It was an old Lutheran building. We've got pews, we've got stained glass. If you look at the top of our ceiling here, it's just a lot of these laminated wood beams, and you'll actually see we've mounted some new stage lighting on the top of the ceiling. These are Pro Church Lights stage lights. So even in a space like this that is very traditional, this isn't your black box church that looks super modern. It very much feels and looks like a church. We knew one of the first upgrades we wanted to make that was going to be really important was going to be our lighting system. Because before in the past, we actually didn't really have any stage lighting. It was just some of the old fixtures in this space. You can actually kind of see them right here. So I'll zoom in into the middle of the screen up here. You see this kind of rectangle looking thing on the top of the ceiling. Those were the only front lights that we had, or stage fixtures in this room. And they were just incredibly inadequate, because when you don't have enough output on your front lights on stage, you're just not going to create really just adequate light for your cameras to capture that subject nice and clear. So if I go back to me right here, let's go back, I'll pan back over to where we were here. Sorry, I'm even getting used to Ecamm's camera control. Look at, you guys get to see me learn this in real time. Okay, there we go. It's kind of nice. I can actually use my up and down keys on my my computer to my keyboard on my computer to actually navigate the pan, tilt, zoom on these cameras. So very, very slick feature with Ecamm. Of course, with PTZOptics, you could use joystick controllers and some other ways to control it, but I'm just using a software control here in Ecamm Live. It's very convenient. So before we had these stage lights that you see now, the Pro Church lights, we had those old fixtures up in the ceiling, and it was a struggle, especially for our cameras on a Sunday morning. Actually, let me go ahead and I'll pull up some examples of what I'm talking about. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So here's an example of what the light used to look like at Rock Harbor. So here we're using some older PTZOptics cameras. This was a few years ago. Just look how dark everything looks on our YouTube feed here. It looks grainy. The camera's really struggling to have enough light to produce a clear and a crisp image. So that's what happens when you don't have adequate stage lighting. It has detrimental effects to anything else that you do visually in your camera capture for your live stream. And then fast forward to today, here's Pastor Kevin at our church using the existing system we have with the improved lighting, which makes the majority of the quality impact here. Also, we did have some newer PTZ cameras. We implemented the 4K moves that you see right now that I'm using, but just a massive difference in the quality of our live stream by implementing a better lighting system. So let's kind of walk through what are the key parts of a lighting system and what we installed here. And then I'll also talk about just kind of the design approach and how I have this configured in LightKey, which is our DMX control software to control the lights. So if you look around the room here at Rock Harbor, and if you look back up at the ceiling, like I showed you before, you can see a few stage lights that we've got mounted to the beams on the top of our ceiling. We have 4 of them kind of on that back beam. That's as far back as we can go in the room here, kind of closer to the stained glass. And then we have another row of 4 that's a little bit closer to the stage. These are the front lights for our lighting system. And these are producing the light that you see illuminating me on stage. That's why I have adequate light in this image right now, and it looks good. Let me go ahead and show you what it looks like if I were to actually go ahead and start turning down the lights. Here's what it looks like with none of those stage lights on in the room. Here's what it looks like at about 10%, kind of looks like it used to before we had the upgraded lighting. Here's 23%, and then if I go up here, to full, here it is at 100%. So these are the Pro Church Lights Pro Wash Maxes. These are just great general wash lights for illuminating your team on stage. You can also use the Pro Spots by Pro Church Lights. There's lots of great lighting manufacturers, whether it's Pro Church Lights, Chauvet. Those are kind of our go-to here at Churchfront that we recommend a lot of the time. So these front lights, we recommend having them at about, I would say, a 40-degree angle or so vertically from your subject on stage. Here at this church, because our ceiling is so high, that angle is quite a little bit higher than we would prefer, but it still works great. I think ideally the lights would have been mounted a little bit lower, but we were also having to work within the bounds of the architecture here, and we didn't really want to fly an additional truss lower than the ceiling because we didn't really like how that would have looked aesthetically. So then let's go look at the next important type of fixture you're going to want for some professional lighting. I'll go up and you'll see kind of near the big stained glass upstage behind me, we have these kick lights. The kick lights are producing that purple and blue color behind me. And what kick light is really nice for, I'll switch back to me, is for adding a little bit of color like to my shoulders or to my hair or lack thereof hair that I've got here. And it can really help separate your subject from the background. And it really helps have even more of a clean look. Similarly to those kick lights, we actually have these wall wash lights that are behind me. So if I scroll down a little bit on my camera here, you'll see we have the stone facades and we have the Pro Bar lights by Pro Church Lights that are washing light on the wall behind me. These 3 fixtures that I just showed you, the front lights, the good kick lights, and good wall washes, could transform, I know, a lot of the lighting design out there for churches. And notice it's not super flashy, it's not crazy, we're not running any haze at this church. You can run haze if you want to, but that's totally up to you and your ministry philosophy and the style that you're going for. But these 3 lights can be a game changer for producing adequate lighting for your church to have just a phenomenal look on camera. So now let me go ahead and demo for you a little bit more of what this looks like here when I control the various banks of lights that we have. So here's a wider shot of the whole room. And then now I'm going to go into Light Key, which is my favorite software. Let's go ahead and turn all the lights off. I'm going to build a new preset. And now I'm going to go ahead and just bring up the front lights that we had. So here's what it looks like with just the front lights on. And this is one bank of front lights. You can actually see this row of front lights is getting downstage, kind of in front of me more, and this is where our pastor or speakers are usually standing and speaking. Then I can turn on this other row of front lights that's going to get upstage kind of behind me for like the backline musicians. So we have lots of front light. It's like actually a little too bright as a speaker here. We probably wouldn't be running these at 100%, but you can get the effect of like how much of a powerful wash we have on the stage because of these front lights. So let's go ahead and turn that down. Now let's go to, turn all these lights down. Now let's see the kick lights that we've got above me. So I'll go ahead and turn that up. And now you can really see that effect, the blue kick lights that kind of have all that blue color all on the stage behind me. I can have a warmer orange color if I want. I've got a color wheel, so I can mix these to any color. And then we've got the wall washes. So let's go ahead and turn those down. So now I'll select the wall wash lights. I'll turn those up, and now you can see the wall wash on the walls. So that kind of gives you an idea visually of the lighting system that we're working on here. So now I want to go ahead and actually just show you some of the scenes that we already have set up for our services. So I'll go to live mode here in Light Key. So this is our kind of pre-service look that we have. We just put some blue light on stage. Usually our house lights are going to be much brighter at this point. We actually use Philips Hue bulbs in these fixtures to illuminate the house lights here. Someday we'll get some nicer DMX controllable pendant lights that are brighter, but for now the Hue lights work well. So when worship starts, we have a few different looks. We've got a blue look, we've got a purple look, we've got a magenta orange look, we've got a seafoam and orange look, we've got a deep red look, a deep blue, a deep purple, warm white, and then a deep cyan, and then a cool white. I actually even just like these white looks. It looks just nice and clean, whether it's the warm white or the cool white. Again, you don't have to have crazy colors all the time in your lighting design. So that's kind of what our lighting design looks like here. Those are the different scenes we'll be calling up throughout the service. We actually recall these scenes from ProPresenter, our presentation software. So when we get to a certain song or a section of the service, the operator will click on that slide and it will automatically change the slides or the lighting scene. It's going to look great. So that is the anatomy of our lighting system here at Rock Harbor Church. We're using the Pro Church lights, the front lights, and we've got the kick lights and the Pro Wash lights on the walls, and then we're using Light Key as our software. And just to show you, I forgot to show you actually what Light Key looks like here. Let me change to my screen for you. This is what Light Key looks like. So we have all of our scenes set up with these nice little buttons here. So you can see I can change the scene, the lights change behind me, and again, those are going to be cued by ProPresenter. All right, so now what I would like to do is actually switch over to talking about camera exposure. So to illustrate this, I do have the PTZOptics camera pulled up here in the web browser. This is where we can program the exposure of the PTZOptics camera, and we can put presets in here as well. And I'll just kind of show you my settings that I have to get some pretty great results for the camera. I'll talk briefly about network setup for cameras. We did improve our network here, which has just dramatically increased the reliability and stability of controlling our cameras, using NDI for our cameras. So we actually have a Unify system with a Unify router and a Unify switch, and then I have manual IP addresses assigned to all of our cameras. So at any given time, I'll know what IP a camera is supposed to have. So this one right here that you're watching me on has this IP as 192.168.50.21. That's just going to make the control of the camera really consistent. It's going to be easy to identify and change things because I could just type that IP into my web browser here when I'm on the internet or when I'm on that network with my computer, and then I can adjust these camera settings. And then you can see we have all the other network settings in here for our router IP, the subnet mask, and those things. So I don't want you to forget network settings important just for the ability to log on to a computer like this and to start controlling your camera. And then under video config, let's go to audio and video. For us, we do use the SDI output on our cameras because we're using an ATEM Constellation switcher on Sundays and for our video system here. And I like the SDI video feed because NDI is flexible where it works over a network, but there is more latency. It tends to be more latency and lag. SDI, I feel like it's just a point-to-point, very reliable connection, and it's worked really well with us, especially with the Blackmagic line of products for video switching and video hubs. Under here on streaming settings, I don't really have much applied there. NDI settings, I can change the name of the camera, how it shows up as PTZ Cam 1 on our network, so that's also very handy. Let's go back to the dashboard, and now you'll see the preview come up of the camera right here. For speed, these are the speed settings I have for my camera. pretty slow, like we don't want crazy fast movements on it. Most of the important stuff here is under image. So here are the image settings that we've landed on and what we like here at Rock Harbor Church. And again, I'll switch to my main camera so you can just see this is kind of the result here. And these PTZ cameras do have autofocus, which works pretty well. If I'm looking at my computer, you can kind of notice it loses track of my face. But if I come back up, it finds my face. So the autofocus is pretty highly dependent on face tracking. So if you ever saw me go out of focus in this presentation, it's just probably because I was like looking down at some other direction and the focus goes on the wall behind me. I'm also impressed that this camera tends to handle focus decently well with the stained glass like patterns behind me. Sometimes that can cause issues for some cameras out there, navigating that specifically in a church environment. So let's go back to the screen share here. So here's the camera control. Luminance, you know, we can adjust these types of settings here. It almost seems to kind of affect the contrast of the image. I like it when it's on 8. Saturation is how deep are those colors going to be. I like 90%. Contrast is at 9. Sharpness is at 9. Hue is at 9 or 8. These are some stylistic things that you can kind of experiment with, what looks best for your situation. Under exposure mode, I do have it set to manual mode. Let's go to auto real quick. And then you'll see, okay, how much did the camera actually change now that it's on auto mode. So here's auto mode. Still actually looks pretty good. But the problem is, if I were on auto mode, if I were to make any changes to my lights, let's say I bring down the lights, let's see what happens now. You'll notice that the camera tries to boost the amount of gain in the exposure, and that makes kind of a noisy image, right? It still doesn't look horrible, but it's always best and safest, in my opinion. And see how okay, so it got really bright when I turned the lights on, and then you could see the auto exposure kind of readjust, and it looks pretty good. So auto mode, I don't think it's a good idea to be in it all the time. I'd rather be in manual mode and then set these settings to just be very consistent across various lighting situations. So here's the manual mode again. I'm a bigger fan of how this looks. And then here I'll show you how I dialed it in. So exposure. You want to understand the exposure triangle. You have iris, also known as aperture. You have shutter, and then you have gain. These are the 3 important settings to understand. So iris is kind of how large is that opening in the lens to let in more or less light. A larger iris or aperture, it's actually a little counterintuitive, means there's less light coming through, like the larger this number is. So if I were to go to f11, it's going to get darker, right? But if I go back to f.4, that's where I feel like this camera looks the best and kind of the sharpness of it. It looks good. Shutter speed is the how long basically is that electronic shutter going to be open to receiving light. So the shorter that shutter speed is, the darker it's going to be because it's not opening very long, and then the image gets dark, right? If I go to 1/500th of a second. General rule of thumb with shutter speed, you want it to be the denominator of your shutter speed to be twice the amount of the frame rate of your camera. So we're running our system at 2997 or 30 frames per second. So our shutter speed is at 1/60. It's just a good rule of thumb. It's better for like motion blur. You're not going to have weird issues with how the motion and the blur looks like in the image. Then under that, we have gain. So gain is basically boosting the sensor when it feels like it needs to artificially create more light in the image. Kind of like if you were to have gain on an amplifier for your guitar and you want to make your guitar louder, you can gain it up. But it also creates, in the audio world, can create distortion. In the same way, gain in the video world can also create distortion. So if I went all the way up here, it looks very bright, but it also looks very noisy and grainy. If I went down to 0, it looks a little bit dark. So for me, I think having a gain around 2 looks appropriate for this camera. Those are the 3 really important settings. I actually think you'll find with a lot of your cameras out there, you could probably have almost identical settings if you have adequate front lighting like I do, and your subjects are going to look great. So those are some tips on how to properly set exposure. Make sure, again, I would start with where do I want my iris to be on the camera, on the lens? I think anywhere from 2.8 to 4.0, maybe 5 is going to look good. It's going to give you, if you have a lower number like 2.8, you'll have more of that depth of field effect where things get blurred out behind me. So let me actually show you that. I'll bring it down. Well, this camera actually does down to 1.8. Kind of gets a little bit soft. I'm going to bring the gain down here because it did get brighter. And now let's go back to the full screen image. And then let me go ahead and zoom in for you. We can zoom in nice and tight here. Let's see if the focus will catch me. See, it's struggling to catch on the autofocus here. Let me gain up one more time. There we go. So notice how nice and blurred out the background is behind me. That helps when the aperture is lower at that 1.8 level. The downside of a 1.8 aperture is you don't have as much depth of field to your image. So if you had like 2 subjects on stage, and if they're not perfectly parallel with one another, then one of them could look out of focus while the other one looks in focus. So be aware of that as you're messing with aperture. Yeah, what if I go up a little bit? There we go. I just had to put my face in the middle of the frame a little bit, and that was helpful. So let's go back to 4.0. You'll see the difference there. You might have noticed, like, I like the 4.0. I feel like I didn't lose that much of a blurry background, especially when I'm zoomed in this much. When you zoom in nice and tight on a subject, that's when that nice bokeh, blurry background effect is going to happen. And I feel like I just look a lot sharper. It looks really good. I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go ahead and maybe I could crank my gain up a little bit more. Sorry, first day speaking English here. And I'm pretty happy with that image right there. All right, going back to our settings. So this is where we're at right now. f4.0, 1/60 shutter, gain is right here. Color. I also like to have manual color settings. And with PTZOptics, there's different settings here. They don't necessarily probably work the way I would want them to, but I know how to work with the software to get it to work right. So my settings are 26 for red gain and 80 for blue gain. So if I go to different settings, let's do auto, see what it does with color. So now it's kind of dialing it in. That's, that's acceptable. Here, I'll pull it up on the bigger screen for you. That color looks pretty good too. And that's where it's like, okay, the red gain tuning, it says it's in -2. The blue gain tuning is +3. If I go to indoor, outdoor, manual, I still prefer the manual. I think the auto, in my mind, the color was a little bit cooler than what I would prefer. So I'm going to keep it here on my manual settings. So again, I'll show you the screen. So here's the manual settings here. The other thing too, sometimes you have cameras that might have just a color temperature setting you can put in here. Our front lights are about 4,000 Kelvin, and then I can tell my camera, hey, the white balance should be at 4,000 Kelvin, and that will make your subject look the same color both in person in the room and as they do online with a camera. So that's another setting you can use when it comes to adjusting color. Okay, focus. We have ours on auto, and we've got the center of the frame to kind of be the focus. So that's probably why I was struggling earlier, was when I kind of fell out of the center of the frame. It had a hard time capturing focus on me. And then advanced, there's some advanced features here as well. So these are the ways I would recommend setting up the exposure and focus settings, the image settings here on PTZOptics. And again, I'm pretty happy with the results that we've been getting with this. Okay, let's talk about another really important concept for the image quality of your system. We talked about lighting, which is kind of the foundation for your camera to function properly and look good. Then we talked about exposure settings, because if those aren't set right, it's still not going to look good. If you got lighting right and exposure right, the next important thing to get right is going to be framing. So let's go ahead. I'll pull up my PTZ camera settings here. It's really important to understand a few concepts when you're framing your pastor or worship leaders or other people at your church. I'm gonna make sure too my exposure, yeah, it's on manual. Okay, cool. It's good to go there. So the framing of a subject, very important. So this is a good, what I would call sort of waist up shot, right? So you can see like the bottom of the image is at my waist. And then I also have adequate headroom. Sometimes with headroom, I kind of imagine that the person has their hand above their head, and maybe I'll zoom out a little bit more. And about the space of a hand, also I got a hat on, so it puts it higher. That's enough space to have above my head for some good headroom that it feels natural. You don't want to film people like this. That doesn't look very professional, feels pretty awkward. And the same thing, you don't want to film people like that, like when you're, there's too much headroom, right? So keep headroom in mind, and then select shots like a waist up shot. And whenever I say like waist up or a body part up, the bottom of the frame should be just below that body part. So there's waist up. Let's go to, let's do shoulder up. So if I were to do like shoulder, I probably go out a little bit more here, and up a little bit, something like this. So if I'm a pastor talking, sorry, not shoulder, elbows. I can't even remember my body part names today. This happens when I try to teach and move a camera at the same time. So here is the elbow up shot. So I would frame the camera something like this, and that looks nice and natural, right? And then you could also zoom out. You could even have like a knee up shot. So if I go here, I'll go just below the knees. This would be a knees up shot. And again, I have adequate headroom on top, and it's about that same length of a hand. Don't feel like this is a hard, fast rule. It is kind of a thing where I want you to just observe maybe other professional broadcasts and start looking at them with a framing mindset and be like, well, how much headroom do they have? Is the person centered in the shot? Is this a knees up? Is it a waist up? Is it a elbows up shot? You just always want to be kind of thinking with that producer mindset when you're analyzing other productions that maybe you go and watch and see. Another thing you could think about for framing is the rule of thirds. So you can always place a subject. If I were on stage and I'm looking in this direction, it is appropriate sometimes to have that put me on the left third of the image here and leave all the space of the other 2/3 of the image where I'm looking in this direction. So then if I turn this direction, we would want the camera to be panned, over here. So then I'm like looking over here, right? So whenever you're applying this rule of thirds concept, if you're dividing the frame into 3 sections, like this is one section, this is the middle section, and this is the other section, you want the space, the 2/3 of that space, to be where your subject is looking, and that feels more natural there. So that's the rule of thirds. You could do that with various focal lengths. You could be zoomed in tighter. So if I were to zoom in, let's say someone's speaking, or I'm like a worship leader singing, and I'm looking in this direction, I would want my framing to be about right here for the rule of thirds. So I'm like, singing, talking, looking that way. It just feels natural in the framing when you apply that rule that way. Or it can be wider like I showed you earlier. You don't have to be zoomed in super tight. So those are really important concepts to keep in mind. We talked about exposure, making sure you set your manual exposure settings right. I showed you my settings here. And then framing. If you get those things right, if you get lighting, exposure, and framing, you're going to be well on your way to a professional video production for your church's live stream. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to be moving cameras around all the time. You don't have to be switching angles like crazy. Always just get these fundamentals right and prioritize these before you start getting fancy with your church's video production. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned a tip or two to have a better lighting setup at your church. And a better look for your live stream. And I look forward to coming back someday at Worship Summit Live. When my friend Craig at Pro Church Lights heard that I was going to be talking about lighting in this workshop, he did want to mention a discount code is available. So all you need to do if you want to order lights or talk to their sales reps, you can actually just use the word PTZOptics at the order form, or let the sales rep know that you're here in the workshop today to get not only the 10% discount, but additional 5% discount from Churchfront. So go ahead and let them know that. Hope you guys can get a good deal on your lighting. I really think it's going to solve a lot of headaches for your church's live stream. So I hope you guys found that helpful. Thanks so much. You can check out churchfront.com to connect with my team and I. We can help you set up a new lighting and video system for your church. And thanks again to the PTZOptics team for allowing me to join you for the Worship Summit Live. I'll see you next time.
Wow. I learned so much from that, Jake. You are amazing. We are killing it today, doing so well. Thank you all for being here. I am going to skip the music in between Jake and Allan because we're just a couple minutes behind and I want to keep us on schedule today. So Allan Bunt is next. Allan, I'll let you take it away. Allan is coming in live from, where are you coming from, Allan? Oh, you're muted.
We're from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church and School in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. And I got to remember to look at the camera, not at the screen.
It's great to have you. How you doing today, Allan?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm finer than frog's hair. And this will be trimmed this afternoon. Sorry about that.
No problem. What are you talking about today?
I'm going to do something a little bit different than we have in the past. Since you gave camera positions so well and Jake gave lighting positions so well, I'm going to come at the summit. You've got all your equipment set up. You've got volunteers in place, and it's coming up on worship time. You've done all your pre-work. You've got all your graphics ready. You've double-checked everything. You've reset your computers. And now what do? It's time for worship. What's the next steps? So I got a couple of different ways to do things here today. First of all, I'll just kind of give you a little rundown of our desk setup here. If I can get my NDI going here. And we'll switch it in with the old barn door effect. So this is our video production desk right here. And I'm using my cell phone on an NDI direct connect through our Wi-Fi in a sanctuary, which is dedicated now to just the sanctuary, so nobody else can use it. As you can see on the screens here, I use vmix. And then in the middle, I have a HuddleCam HD for a webcam for the screen view that you're looking at me on the screen there. And then on the right hand is my spare monitor, which I can do other things that are not broadcast out. So I'm watching the Zoom on that one. This little monitor down here just looks at the HDMI output from my cameras. And if you look a little closer there, it's showing my position of my Move 4K. And I won't do much with that, except for just show you how the audio zoom kind of works pretty good. My main focus here is getting this as easy to operate for the operators as possible. We very seldom ever use the computer keyboard here. Very seldom ever use it. Once in a while if we got to type in a chat or something, because a video producer is generally monitoring the chat, monitoring the screens, getting everything working there. And my old friend here, my super joy, I love this boy. So we use a combination of Elgato Stream Decks, and with the Stream Deck and software kind of hybrid with Companion to control many, many different things, as many things as I possibly can. I have a number of different screens here. Try to zoom in here a little bit. So I can control all 6 of my cameras here in the sanctuary, including that one up there, just with a push a button. And if you look at the screen up above, let me see if I can get them both in here. I'm on 2 microphones, so this should work. So if I hit cam 1 here, it's going to go to cam 1 in the preview window right there, just like that. Or camera 2, or camera 3, or camera 4, which is in another room, or my camera 5, which is all the way in the back, or the one right in front of me, or my little green screen effect right here. I can also look at the output from my presentation laptop via NDI now. No hardwire there before. I have some different effects set up, so I can throw some graphics up here, and I can switch between graphics with the other button on this one. The idea here is to make this as seamless as possible for the operator, and they can switch between scenes very quickly that way. I can also do overlays. If you see on the preview window up there, I have different overlays for different cameras. So I wanted to use my little handheld cam here just to kind of show, sitting from the operator's booth. This is another monitor that will be put into service here as soon as we're done here today. I can even control the SuperJoy with the Stream Decks. I have a little script file that John from Streaming Alchemy gave me that ties through vmix. So whatever camera I pick over here is the camera that will light up over here. A one button push in a flash, I can adjust. And I can adjust while everything is in preview or in program. Either doesn't really matter. So you're getting the worship service started. You've had a pre-service presentation playing on the screens. If you look up there, you'll see our two screens. This screen on the right here is showing just the output of the Zoom meeting that we're in. The one on the left is from my presentation laptop, which sits right there. It's actually a PC now. We retired the laptop. All remotely controllable from right here. I do have a team. We typically like to have 3 and 4 people. One running video, someone playing the organ, someone running presentation, and all the way over in the corner over there, this guy sitting at the audio board. Let me get back to this in here. And I got it all goofed up now. Okay, now we're back to this. Now before, I'll just give you a quick walk around the building. Paul, hands down the best camera position presentation I've ever seen. We're almost identical. Almost. Wow. Move 4K real quick. This comes in really handy. We use it explicitly for zooming in on the pastor because our pastors like to move around, and it works really, really well. But currently right now I have it set on me over my shoulder here. And with my Stream Deck, one button push, and the auto zoom comes on, and now I can walk around. And it follows me. And I'm watching myself move on the screen here. Now with a little camera magic tree here, I'll show you where, there's my camera 1, right at the back in the center. There's my camera 2, 45 to the front. My other camera, 45 to the front on the other side. I also have one back at the audio desk, which is movable. I can put it wherever I need to. In our fellowship hall in the other room, I have one of the older PTZOptics cameras. We don't use it very much, but it's hard mounted there. And then with cell phones and NDI, now I can go up here during Just a second. I got to switch cameras here. Because I have the capability and I can do it now. If I can remember how to do it. Oh, that's camera 2 on there. I got the wrong camera. Kathy, could you go put camera 1 in, actually, no, wait a second. That's camera 1. Okay. Aha. 5. There's my trusty assistant, Kathy. Just a moment. I got to put the right camera on the screen here so that you can see what I'm doing. And as you can see, I'll turn off the auto tracking now. That works just as advertised. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now we're on the gimbal mount. So what we've just started discovering is when Pastor likes to have a children's devotion right up here, right on the floor in front of the altar, a volunteer can come right up here and zoom right in, right up on the children's devotion. And then we can put that up on the screen here so the rest of the congregation in the back can see. And I have full, complete control of both screens independently. And now we'll walk back to the desk and use this in a better way. We have a presentation computer here running MediaShout 6. Very old software, but it does work very well. So my team exists typically of 3 to 4 people, ideally 4. On a good day, 5, with me being just production supervisor. That's my goal. So as we progress through a worship service, you know, we've got a hymn that comes up here. Just by pushing buttons back and forth. So through many years of trial and error, and this is just my normal desk mic that goes into the house PA. I'm also wearing a wireless just for today. I separately mix audio on my own little mixer coming off the main one. We use for in-house and for broadcast audio, we use a Midas M32. Very similar to the Behringer X32. I believe the software is the same. Getting that set up and getting going was the key to making this really good, because not only do I have good video, I have good audio also. And now you can see everything going on here. So on the screen, you will notice that Kathy, my very good assistant and video operator here, makes these graphics. We're using a data, what is that called again? Now my mind's drawn a blank. We're using a data source off an Excel file. So for everybody online, they see this overlaid on top of whatever video we choose. For instance, right on top of my own video. And we can advance slides this way, one at a time as we go through them. And we can also have the ability to make and change these on the fly if something changes or we skip a hymn or do different verses. On any camera view, and this is I'll turn the auto zoom off and it'll automatically switch to the front position. Normally when we sing hymns, this is the position the camera 1 is in, using the 4K. Or I can use camera 2 or 3 or 4. I can even use this one if I want to. Now I have a painted green screen right behind me. So as we're going through a worship service, I got to learn a little trick here too. Now you can see me sitting in the corner using my green screen. You're following along with the worship program, singing along, pushing buttons, always trying to go forward, never backwards. Typical service usually lasts between 45 and 50 minutes. Being recorded and streamed out also at the same time. And also on we use the Life Church platform for going out to our stream. So at any time, 24/7, you can go watch our last services or the last sermon or whatever else we decide to put in the playlist. So it's live during worship time, but video on demand replay afterwards. Probably one of the most key things I can say is there's post-production work that goes into this also. I handle most of that, but over the years, I have gotten to the point. Let's see here. We got to go the barn door effect and turn off the overlay, all with buttons. And you can see I have an Osmo gimbal camera for the camera here. Over the years, I've discovered getting volunteers is not that difficult. My assistant, Kathy, over here started out as a volunteer, just running things and running cameras, and I would get it all set up for her, and she would run it. And then she slowly worked into making graphics. She makes them from home. We get the worship folder in a digital format. She puts it all together. I just have to, oversee it and proofread it once in a while. Make sure we have the Bible readings in the correct format and the correct translation, because we switch around translations quite a bit. I'm not quite as heavily involved in music production anymore because we have a brand new Rogers organ here and an organist now. I only have to play once a week. So I've turned my attention back to making the production as clean as possible. Now, my green screen here looks a little grainy because the lighting in this corner is not very good. That's next on my list. But this the huddle cam right here in front of me, that works very well. And I've got different positions on that too. I can switch to that camera view and that one and that one. And this is the one that zooms in right on my green screen. So the majority of what I do now as producer is when that bad thing happens and something doesn't work. How do we fix it? Because you're live, you're on the spot right now. You don't have 4 or 5 days to figure it out normally. And I've come to the conclusion that for the computer work, I have outsourced that completely to Tom Sinclair from Eastern Shore Broadcasting, and he keeps everything running for me. Good, excellent quality. I turn it on and it works. And then your key point that you mentioned at the beginning of this, Paul, is that you got to be able to reset it every time, every day. Completely shut it completely off. And that morning of broadcast, fire it all back up and make sure everything's working prior to service time. Because typically I'll start streaming about 20 to 30 minutes before the actual worship starts. because we always have a pre-service presentation running or a video or different things. Getting here, getting it all working ahead of time so that you're not rushed. And if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. Or if something fails, it's not a big deal. Over at the audio desk over there in the corner is my old system. We moved it over there. That is a complete backup with vmix, with OBS. So if all else fails, we can switch to that other system over there. Granted, it's a little less automated, but the audio engineer sitting at the desk can run the whole show from over there. We are getting to the point where someday we'll be able to run it completely remotely. That's why I'm looking at Hive really hard for being able to control cameras without any lag. I can do that with desktop sharing software right now, but there's always that lag in it that you got to play with. I got it down to about 20 or 30 seconds right now. That's okay in some cases, just to get things going. So, and I have a couple of young people that I've pretty much just sat in front of the desk and say, push buttons, keeping them focused on what we are doing and why we are doing it. And I've got a couple of really good ones that are coming up the pike here. So, because I'm not going to be doing this forever. Kathy's not going to be doing it forever. Most of our congregation are the elderly or beyond years and retirement age. And when they look at all this, they see all these buttons, like it was previously mentioned, that it scares them. So I am recording this worship summit because I'm going to show everybody the things that are discussed today. So I do appreciate, and I'm honored to present here at the worship summit. I've been to a few of these now. You've seen my system grow over the years, and it's working very, very good right now. Other than, Move 4K and the autofocus issue, we suffer from that also, but the lighting in this room is not ideal. Not anywhere close to what Jake was doing. I take a lot of his advice to help adjust things. But we're under a budget also. Of a 300 member congregation, and we have a good consistent 25 to 30 online members for online watchers on every single service. The midweek ones are a little bit less. The ministry that we can provide online here and through the post-production, there's, I have to upload videos. I have to edit a couple, like for the sermon. I also create an audio podcast out of that. And we post them to both Facebook and YouTube. We're not live on YouTube or Facebook, just the video on demand afterwards. Just keeping websites running. I'm also in charge of that, unfortunately. Facebook is a neat challenge, but that's all done post-service. One of the things that I've struggled with is that when we're done with the service, you turn things off and you walk away. Well, not quite. You got some you got maybe an hour or two of work to get Facebook pages updated, WordPress pages updated. Usually by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm finally finished. I'm done. Most of it I can do remotely with my cell phone. Most of it. Some of it I have to do to do some post-production recording for promos and such. I just did one before the worship summit today. It's on the website right now, live.onegoodShepherd.org, and you can see this mug today. Set up and all the technical details to get set up to do this is one thing. Actually running the production and spreading the word exactly how it's supposed to be, and focusing in on the sermon and the message is the most important part in my book. Making sure the audio is good so that you can hear it and understand it. video kind of comes second, but with PTZOptics equipment, it's not hard to do. We use, vmix exclusively for that. We use the other tools as a backup and to fill in the spots where we need it. We're just getting into using NDI more. Now that I have a good, solid Wi-Fi connection in the sanctuary that's used just for the sanctuary, all of our NDI over Wi-Fi issues have gone away. I still have to use SDI on 3 cameras. That will slowly, eventually work its way back down to NTI because there's so many more things you can do with it. And we don't even scratch the surface on using the capabilities of the Move 4K. We use it for a couple of things. There's so many things we can do with it. And yeah, as budgets come and go, and as years go by, I will be replacing the Gen 2s eventually, and we'll be putting either the Move SEs or maybe another 4K in this place. It all depends. And we'll use the older equipment in other places. I will have a 7th camera in the sanctuary eventually. There will be one behind the altar facing backwards. I have a need for it right now. I don't have a camera for it, other than to set up and tear down. So as you're doing, worship production, you just got to remember the reason why we do it. It's to spread the word, get the message out. If we make mistakes along the way, or Satan gets in there and technology decides it's not going to work, don't worry about it. It'll all work out. I've been doing this long enough where the more automated I get it, the more complicated it gets. So if something fails, usually 3 or 4 things fail. We had a computer that actually went down for 3 weeks, a brand new one from Tom Sinclair, and it was a bad chip from the manufacturer, we found out. It took a while to figure that out, but we had a backup system in place. We never missed a service. It might have looked a little different, might not have been as fancy, but we were able to get the message out and get the word out and keep it going out. And, I use it myself personally because usually I'm busy back here in the corner and I really can't pay attention to the pastor as much as I'd like to. So I use my own audio podcast to listen on the workday driving down the road, and I'll catch it there. And second or third time through, I really get the message at that point. So I thought I'd give you a little sidetrack of, once we get into that place where we're actually producing, we've got all the technical things done. We've got it all worked out. We're able to fix anything on the fly that we possibly can. The audio works out good. The timing works out good. We play the right video at the right time. We don't play the wrong hymn on the organ. We've done that. Did it just last week. Played the wrong tune. It happens. Now that we have a live organist, and she makes mistakes too, it's not a big deal. It's we got to keep focus on the reason we're doing this. And I'm quite honored to be able to share what I can do here. And I'm learned by experience. Everything on this desk I've broken 3 times. I'm on my 4th Superjoy, as a matter of fact. I tried to do a firmware update and I bricked it twice. So, and it's kind of a mishmash of different things pieced together, hooked together. Technically, a Stream Deck is not really supposed to work at the same time as Companion as a good. I've figured out how to do it and make it very user friendly, and taken a lot of input from my operators and from my son, who's a whiz at this kind of stuff, but doesn't always hear every Sunday. He's my audio engineer. When we get it goofed up too bad, and he comes in and fixes it all. He's my little guy. He's now 22. He's been sitting at this desk since he was 6 years old. That's my son, Andy. And he's been on the worship summit with me once. So it's a passion of mine to present the word and spread the word through this medium. Yes, we have people who come in and sit in the congregation inside the brick and mortar, but this is a different, separate ministry that is so important. Once I get that message out, and once I, show people, it's not that difficult to do. Once you get everything set up, and one of us older guys is around to fix it if need be. I had to fix something for someone else on one of the other computers in the building this morning. So guess what? I broke it when I was playing with it. So that's the way it goes. So I wish everybody else a enjoyable time watching the rest of the summit. It's my honor to bring this to you. If I can put in a shameless plug, live.onegoodshepherd.org. You can go watch all our videos, and you can join us on Sunday and Thursday if you choose. So with that, I'll pass it back to the rest of the team. Thank you very, very much.
Allan, that was I'm so proud of how far you've come. We've been working together for years now, and you've one step at a time just got better and better. It's an inspiration to a lot of us out there. You're doing amazing. Thanks for joining us today, Allan.
Thank you.
So we have another, I think it is time to take a short jump into some worship music. And I think Mike has Scott McLaughlin, Cries of My Heart. Is that the next one? Okay, what's next for us, Mike? Jojo Martin, See the Light. And then I'm going to interview Gary Bettan from the Video Guys. And then we're going to do a giveaway. So stick around for the giveaway. You have to be here to win a Move SE PTZOptics camera. Make sure you enter to win, and I'll see you guys in just a minute.
Everybody clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands. Sing, oh, yeah. Where to go next, and who can I trust? No one but you. My hope is Jesus. I can see the light. I can see the light coming. I can see the light. I can see the light. Everybody sing, oh, he's the light of the world. Yes, he is. He's the light of the world. Darkness seems to be all around, searching for what my eyes where to go next, and who no one but you. Sing, I can see the light. I can see the light coming. So shine your light on us. Shine your light, Jesus. Oh, you say, shine your light on us. Shine your light, Jesus. Oh, shine your light shining on us, oh God. We need it. One more time, I can. Coming, it's coming, yeah. I see it. This world ends. Your word will come. This won't last. This won't last. God made me a promise, and this won't last. He said it in His word. It's only for a short while. Oh, this won't last. Oh, yeah. Oh, it won't. No, it won't. God made us a promise.
Can you hear me?
This word will come. This won't last.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
This won't last. No. These light afflictions are but only for a short while. It's written in His word. No, it won't. No, it won't.
Testing.
Speaking over yourself. Speaking over the world. Speaking over this country. Your word will come. Everybody clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands. Everybody clap your hands. Your word will come to pass. Yes, it will. I can see the light. I can see the light coming. God's word is coming to pass. This won't last. Hold on. Be strong. Stay encouraged. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. Yeah.
Hey, this is Gary Bettan from Video Guys, and I'm happy to be a part of the Worship Summit. And Paul, thank you for doing this little interview with me about what's hot and what's new for houses of worship. We definitely see it's a market that is a solid market. There's definitely tiers of it. There's your lower, smaller churches on tighter budgets for as big of mega churches and people like that. You know, we talked about what we want to focus on this show, and I really want to focus on this show on basically, think of it as upgrading of things that churches probably have already, how they can improve. We know almost every house of worship during the pandemic had to buy streaming stuff like PTZOptics, PTZ cameras, and vmix to be able to produce their shows and stuff. But what I don't think a lot of people realize was that was 5 years ago, Paul, and a lot changes in 5 years, especially in technology. So back then, adoption leapt ahead 5 years, as our good friend Andrew Cross told us, but now we're 5 years later, and guess what? Technology is back ahead, so to speak, and I think a lot of houses of worship have fallen behind. And one of the things that I've seen is that back pre-pandemic, houses of worship had to go to stream because it was the only way to communicate with your congregation, right? You didn't have a choice. People weren't allowed to come to church for whatever reason. We know the reasoning, but we weren't, and we made it work. Now we're at a point where I think a lot of houses of worship realize, hey, it's great that I can reach people who can't come, but I like people being in the seats. So a lot of people are now using video and storytelling to have the actual service itself be more engaging and have more people come in. So they're producing for overflow screens and for screens that are behind the preacher, as well as streaming for those who are outside. So I want to give that as like my little thing. I want to get your 2 bits on that before I start talking about what I think are some novel solutions to help churches take their game up.
Well, I'm so glad to have you here at the Worship Summit, Gary. Today's been full of so many great presentations. My presentation was about where to put the cameras and how to get those storytelling angles, whether it's spoken word or whether it is really like musical and engaging. And we're hearing from so many worship leaders like Jake Gosselin from Churchfront today. What an amazing presentation, talking about color, talking about lighting, talking about really bringing the atmosphere of a worship experience to viewers online. And I think that's sort of what you're talking about, Gary, is what is the gear that we need to bring that level up? At
Yep.
this point, we're ready to talk about that. And I'm so glad to have you here as capping off our first day of the Worship Summit to give us some ideas of what is the gear we need to really achieve the things we've been talking about all day today on day one of the Worship Summit.
Cool. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is kudos to every house of worship who's figured out how to bring video in at whatever budgets they have, right? You're doing it, it's working great. But we know that the aspirational level of a big new tech TriCaster or Ross Carbonite, one of these bigger solutions, $25,000 to $50,000 solutions, it's not for every church. Let's be honest. Most churches don't have that kind of budget. One of the things that we took as a challenge for ourselves was saying, a lot of houses of worship, education as well, come to us and say, I want to buy a computer that'll run this software, oftentimes vmix. Now, vmix does a great job on their website, and they'll show you that they have the Ruby and the Topaz level machines and stuff like that. And they'll give you a list of people you can buy a machine from. But the problem is that's kind of like a customized system. A lot of these guys just want to know, I can buy a computer from someone who I trust, and they can just pop it in, and it's going to run. We also now have Wirecast. It's become more and more robust. It's still a player. And lo and behold, the folks at BizRT finally unshackled the TriCaster software from customized hardware, and you can get the TriCaster software alone. So you're getting the equivalent of the software that's on a TriCaster Mini. All the bells and whistles of what makes a TriCaster there work. And one of the things that I realized is a lot of houses of worship are operating with a system that's got like an ATEM mixer, 1 or 2 instances of vmix, something else thrown in. They might be using an Epiphan or a Magewell encoder or something, somewhere along the line. It's a hodgepodge of stuff that's allowed them to grow their system, but it's a real Rube Goldberg solution. And the problem is there's one volunteer in the church who knows how to make it all work. And if that guy is sick or goes on vacation or God forbid, something happens to him, all of a sudden it's how do we make all this work? And their whole production comes back to the most simplest level just to get on. And they're really starting over with gear that, quite honestly, isn't the optimized gear for where we are today in 2025. So we worked together with one of the companies that actually is very big in the vmix community for making turnkey solutions, the Stream Dudes. And we said, we want to build the best computer we can that we can sell to end customers for $5,000 that can run all the software we know of in the creative space. So I'm not just talking about vmix, OBS, Wirecast, and the new TriCaster Mini S. I'm also talking about Adobe at the highest level, Avid, Resolve. If you're getting into After Effects, if you're getting into animation software, if you're getting into a real 3D because you're doing some 3D animation, we wanted something that could run everything and run it well. And we wanted something that was going to be future-proof. And by that, I meant we had to have a big enough computer that could handle multiple cameras, 3 or 4 cameras, 3 or 4 levels of 4K. And we're going to get to 4K a little bit later in the show because that's one of the things we're talking about. So let's bring up the PowerPoint I have, and let's talk about this a little bit. So we called it the Liberty X. Liberty really because we felt it's Liberty. It works with everything. That was our mantra. We have sent this to TriCaster. It's been certified by VizRT for the Mini S. It's been certified for Wirecast. And let's go into it because it's a... Okay, why isn't this advancing? Oh, there we go. Let's go into what's in this production workstation. So if we bring this slide up full screen, I just want to go over some computer specs. And I know this isn't... I don't want to bore people, but the AMD Ryzen 9 rivals the Intel i9 as the top-level processor that's out there. The NVIDIA Quadro A100 is as good as some of the higher-end gaming GPUs. It's optimized for more of workflow content creation type things where you're doing multiple threading than games that tend to be more single-threaded, and that's the same with the AMD Ryzen as well. We put a fat 32 gigabytes of RAM. We got a terabyte SSD, a more than adequate 500-watt PSU, and we've got a workstation-grade motherboard that has two 10 gigabit NICs. Now let's get into that. Why did we do that? We did that because the world is going, as we know, to NDI and beyond. And we wanted something that had a big pipe within the organization, but also had a big pipe to go outside the organization in case we had to bring in a lot of remote guests and things like that, or if we wanted to still tie into a bigger system down the road. So we wanted something that was really future-proof. And how future-proof is this? I want to go into it. The workstation alone is $5,000. We have other flavors that are available. You can buy it pre-configured with the TriCaster Mini S software, which is available in subscription or perpetual, and we have it bundled with a mini control surface as well. That's starting at $61.99, but always under $10K. And then we have bundles with Wirecast Pro that includes subscription, perpetual, and those versions are also available with your choice of a 4-input HDMI or 4-input SDI card for your I/O, for your inputs. Your output is, so now you're going to have either 4 HDMI, 4 SDI, or 4 NDI. So that we're NDI in the world of TriCaster at this point. But, you know, we also have HDMI and display ports out for running your screens and your output for wherever you're going. It's got more than enough horsepower to do the streaming, the lower thirds, the animations, the graphics, the instant replays, the virtual sets, whatever you need to do, which I know some of that House of Worships don't, but I'm going to the features that it has. And I do want to say that, you know, in the near future, we expect to have a very well-known capture card company, well-known and respected in the post and the live world, having cards that are certified with the Liberty X, because we've submitted it over to VizRT. I know they're in final phases of certification. We'll have those available as well. So, you know, this next slide really goes into what this is about. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this, because you're one of those guys who is a tinkerer, and you'll make stuff work, and you have no problem cobbling together 50 things. But what do you think? Am I onto something? Is my thought process right of giving a good, solid, you know, under $5,000 machine that people just know it can run for them for years down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think this is something that a lot of churches need to think about. At my church, for example, we're running 2 different computers, and we have 4 different camera types, and we're trying to make it all work. And the pastor's a good friend of mine, and he knows we've pretty much got to redo everything. I mean, we've got these computers that are barely chugging by. One of them is running ProPresenter, right? The other one is running vmix, and we're getting by. It's nice to have multiple computers sometimes, because we have multiple volunteers. Sometimes we have 1 volunteer, sometimes we have 2, and sometimes we have 3, and we want to give them things to do. And, you know, PTZOptics Hive is a great thing for that, because now we can just set up a laptop and make that person a camera operator. But at the end of the day, we're having troubles moving forward with a system that can accommodate all the NDI sources that we want to eventually be able to do. And I love the idea of having a system that can also do post-production. You know, at our church, we're doing a lot of post-production, right? We're not only are we live streaming, but we're recording the videos. And so I've been encouraging our worship leaders to cut out certain specific areas of the video, like the bells, like the music, and we're going to make a little album for Christmas time, right? And we're going to make custom videos and start doing post-production, because as the ministry grows, we're getting more dedicated audiovisual media people on staff, and they need positive things to do, right? And so getting a workstation that's not just a video switcher, but can be used for live streaming on Saturday or Sunday, but then post-production Monday through Friday, I think it's a great idea, Gary.
And, you know, let's say you're running Adobe Premiere and you're creating a timeline where, you know, one of the things you brought up post-production. So I want to bring up social media, because I think one of the, you know, you can stream your whole service to social media. That's great. But I say what houses of worship should be using their post-production, create 1-minute and 2-minute clips to speak to their under 30 part of their congregation, to keep them involved, to keep them on top of what's going on, but also to, I'm going to use the word lure, and I mean it in a really good way, but lure them into coming into church or signing up to watch the live stream, either way. But, you know, there's so much good content in there, and you can make a really great, you know, 30, 60, 90, 2-minute little clip video that can really go to serve your purpose. Because let's face it, the purpose of a congregation is to reach as many people as possible. And if we can engage those people by getting them initially engaged through social media, through smaller clips, through a Snapchat group that the church might have, or maybe the kids have their own, Facebook page that they're on, or, whatever they're using, that's reaching the younger audience. That younger audience to me also includes those people in their 30s with young children who are very hard to get on board because they got busy lives. But now to be able to show you can watch it at home, maybe the kids just aren't cooperating that day, you can't get to church, you want to, you can still participate and watch it. You can still come to the church with the family when you can. It gets you involved. But this machine can crunch that stuff out easily. And getting back to your thing about operators, I agree completely. We feel that even with this computer, you'd probably still have someone, if you use multiple PTZ cameras on some kind of PTZ control system, be it Hive or a PT Joy, controller. And then we also feel that it's worth taking a laptop to always run ProPresenter or FlowX or what your graphics is, simply because it's very distracting for someone to operate and mix a show and have to read words on a little screen to bring stuff up. So we definitely find that even in this case, we got 3 volunteers to run the show, but by the same regards, it's all kind of simplified, easy to teach, easy to volunteer for. So you can have someone who knows how to do the graphics to back up the graphics person, or someone who knows how to do the PC to back up the PC person. You don't need someone to be able to back up everybody. But I want to go into a little bit more about how we really feel this workstation is optimized for houses of worship. So let's talk. Can we bring this slide up full, just because it's a little hard to read, Paul? We'll bring it back in soon. But we thought of House of Worship from the beginning, certified for the industry-leading software. It's compatible with all the popular tools. It's powerful streaming-ready hardware. What that means is we've got enough compute in there that we can stream to 1, 2, 3 different, sources, screen size, whatever. We can stream vertical, horizontal, square, high-res, 4K, HD, whatever we want. All the flexible connectivity you need, especially with the approved capture cards on Wirecast. NDI at its core, this system eats NDI, and four channels of 4K NDI, no problem. And you're getting, warranty and tech support. So it's all there. We have, like I said, the Ethernet is mainly for AV over IP type workflows, Paul, and you know how big NDI is. You guys are big proponents of it. I think it's really great for churches. And one of the things I want to talk about why NDI is so important for churches is because you could do PoE at the same time, and now the camera doesn't have to have outlets hung. And we know there's a lot of churches where you might want to put a camera there, but no one wants to tear up that beautiful 75, 100-year wall or whatever is behind it. So you end up not really doing what you want to do, whereas it's easier. A PoE cable isn't a danger if someone steps on it or whatever, it's low voltage. So I think that's a big deal. We do have SDI and HDMI with Wirecast. We will have that available in the near future for the TriCaster Mini. So I just really wanted to stress that it's a great way to go for a church looking to up their game. Fully loaded, even with cards, you're well under $10,000 for the cards and software. So I think it's really opening the door. But most of all, a lot of people have seen, if you're a vmix user, you've seen the different levels. There are certain levels that they say HD only. And we did not want to do that, because in going to the next thing we want to talk about is I really think now is the time to start thinking about upgrading to 4K UHD for churches. Now, one of the reasons behind that is because a lot of people bought their PTZ cameras back in 2020 and 21. And back then, Paul, we were still selling the G2s, right, on PTZOptics back then. So we're 2 generations ahead. So a lot has changed since then. And the biggest thing I want to talk about for houses of worship is UHD. Now, I know me and you had a thought, and your thought was, I think UHD is really something, is above a lot of churches' budget. And you were very honest about that, and that a lot of churches are still HD. But I think if you've got cameras that you purchased back in 2020, 2021, why would you upgrade to yesterday's technology? Why wouldn't you upgrade to the technology that's coming? And I wanted to use this part to explain to people that you don't have to go all 4K. You can get there in pieces, but any cameras at this point that you're replacing, find the budget for a 4K. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. And, one of the things that we've been talking a lot about, and tomorrow we're going to talk to Nick Marzak. He was at a small church in Los Angeles with like 100 people, then 200 people. Within 2 or 3 years, they grew to 6,000. And they have multiple churches all over. And one of the keys to that, and this is happening all across the United States, is some of the churches that are really more active in music, in the performance. Young people especially are really connecting to the worship experience from a musical perspective. And unfortunately, a lot of the, like the church I go to, right, it's a lot of spoken word, which is great. We do our sermons, we do our hymns, we sing along. But what a lot of worship leaders are realizing is that the more effective, the faster growing, larger, more engaging churches who have a lot of young people coming in, they're doing exciting broadcasts. They're doing multi-angle broadcasts of music, like it's almost what you would see at an entertainment, a rock concert, right? And to do that, we're talking 4K. We're talking multiple cameras. We're talking a team of media producers. And I know it might sound a little crazy for a conservative church to think that way, but I know at our small church in Pennsylvania, we're a Presbyterian church, we're talking about what do we need to put in to start looking more professional. And it involves changing the lighting. It involves changing the atmosphere. It involves more cameras. It involves more production capabilities. And 4K is a definite when we make our upgrades.
Yeah. And one of the things that I like to bring up is churches tend to be gorgeous. I mean, people really make the inside of it. I mean, you got a budget, you want to get your people together. I understand there are churches that are in, a room they can rent for a time being. But when you've got that church, a lot of them are gorgeous. And a lot of that beauty of the church is the things that are the walls, the windows, the statues, everything that's there. And one of the things about 4K isn't just 4K, it's also UHD. And that UHD is a higher color space. And if anyone has a 4K TV and you're watching sports, you've noticed over the last 2 years that sports look a lot better all of a sudden. The real reason is because they're not upsampling 2K into 4K. They're really shooting and producing in 4K UHD. And if you remember pre-pandemic, if you went to like your local Best Buy or consumer electronics store to buy a TV, one of the demos they'd say is, here, we're going to turn UHD on and off. And the other we're going to show you here, look at this HD with UHD and 4K without UHD, which one looks better? And I have found for people who are in the late 40s, 50s, that age, our eyes do much better with the advanced color space than the actual definition. So it really comes out. So when I say you deliver more vibrant and realistic colors, you got a gorgeous stained glass window in there. Why not have it look gorgeous when it's streaming and when people are watching on the overflow monitors or other monitors? You're getting a richer, more accurate, smoother color grades, which is so important. Look, if you've got a statue that's, 50 or 100 years old, carved or, out of granite or something, there's so much subtlety in the shadows that create the 3D of why that statue looks so great, right? So I want that to be there. If you're doing events like weddings, I want to be able to see, the real detail, even though it's all white, even a white dress with like pearls on it, it pops in a different way in UHD. So to me, that's so important in a house of worship. And then the other thing with houses of worship is, and you know this because you do your church's services, is that there are some days where the lighting is just atrocious. And there are other days where the sun's out at that angle during certain times of the year where all you have is everyone's washed out. You have such inconsistent lighting. And that's where 4K UHD really comes in, where you can get a cleaner image in dim sanctuaries, and also you're going to get less artifacts, which really means when you're doing your post editing work or you're streaming, your video is going to look that much better. So, what are your thoughts on this so far? I know you guys, speaking for PTZOptics, have the Move 4Ks. They're phenomenal cameras, and I'm really encouraging people to say, if you've got an older camera, you want to upgrade. So this next bullet list is important, but I want to kick it to you because beyond just 4K UHD, these cameras have come a long way in 5 years. So why don't you talk a little bit about just having nothing to do with the forecast, like how your camera series, specifically because you know them so well, are so much better than what the cameras were before. Talk about the mechanics, the motion, the optics, all that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, 4K is like 4 times as much as 1080p as far as, pixels are concerned. So it is very noticeable. And the thing is, when you pair that with optical zoom, let's say 30x optical zoom, I've sat at the back of beautiful Abington Presbyterian Church, 45 minutes away, and zoomed into the stained glass windows and just seen how crisp it is. And we have recordings that we'll share. So from the crispness and clarity, it's amazing when you take the 4K jump with the optical zoom, where you're not just digitally enhancing something with the 4x pixels that you have, right? You are actually optically using high quality glass. And with the Move 4K cameras, we're using Sony sensors. So whether you're upgrading from one of our older cameras to the newer ones of any of the variety, they're all Sony sensors, and it's the color depth, as you mentioned, the clarity. So it really is a big deal, and a lot of our customers just think it's such a huge jump in quality. The other thing I will say about 4K video is the low light, and so it really there's a more to the sensor, right? So it has more light gathering capabilities, and it's night and day is a good metaphor for this. When you're in super low light, you can really bump up the gain without getting a lot of noise. And I talked about this in my presentation earlier today. It can practically be in candlelight and get a viewable video. And you can set color presets, so that you can quickly switch the colors. You do need to know a little bit about the cameras and operating them to have them work properly completely in dark. And that's something that we talk about and we train and we have videos on, but it's incredible what they can do now if you have the 4K models and you're doing low light candlelight services.
And then, Paul, I forgot a bullet on this, and this is on me, but now the current cameras, and it's almost the whole industry, but you guys are a leader in this, have really incredible auto tracking that works great at every 30x from the back of the room or a 12x in the front of the room. And we know when you talk about music and stuff like that, there's animated people performing. It really is kind of an event. And knowing that the camera can track it, it's so smooth and natural. It's like having a cameraman. I mean, that's a big deal also. And then you've got, the more flexibility in editing. You can take a HD image out of a 4K image and it looks great. And then finally, it's really future-proof. It's ready for whatever new screens and standards you have. So I really encourage you. I'm not saying throw out all your HD stuff, but I'm saying if you're a house of worship, your overflow rooms have 4K screens in them. If you've got video walls, pumping 4K into them is going to look better even if they're HD video walls in the room. If you're looking to produce better videos for promoting your maybe you're doing a fundraiser and you want to have a video for the fundraiser that includes footage from the services, it's going to look better. And I just think you don't have to do it all at once, but it's time to start thinking if you're going to replace your whole processing system, your switcher, look for something that's 4K, like a Liberty X-based system, be it running vmix, OBS, TriCaster, or Wirecast. And it's time to start replacing those cameras that need to be replaced with 4K. So it's kind of the house of worship upgrade, stay on top of where the technology is going show. But I really appreciate us having this talk, Paul. And even though it's your show, I always like ending my shows by giving my guest the final word. So wrap it up and give us the final word on your thoughts on today's show.
Well, I really appreciate having Gary on because he's got a really realistic view. I think that the computer is a huge bottleneck for so many of us. And when we plan our next upgrade, just talk to your AV staff. They will tell you they've tried to run vmix, they've tried to run OBS, Wirecast, they've tried to do 4K, and the computer is the bottleneck. So I think Gary's totally right about this. When we sit down with the guys from Video Guys, call our team, they often are telling our houses of worship customers, hey, listen, I know you want to add more cameras, but you got to get a new computer. And I think going with a future-proof solution like this is the way to go. Set yourself up for success, get ready for 4K, and we can have these detailed conversations with you about, after being at Worship Summit today, you probably have an idea of some upgrades you want to make and where you want to put the cameras. Bring your scenarios to us, and we'll help you decide and determine how big of a computer you're going to need, because this is a very relevant topic, Gary. Thank you for bringing this up today.
Thank you, my man. Thank you for doing the show. Thank you for doing the Worship Summit. And most of all, thank you for being a great partner of ours. The PTZOptics and the stuff you do with Stream Geeks is phenomenal. You are an industry legend spreading the gospel of NDI and technology and your books and your webinars and all that. So I love when we get together, and we almost kept it to 15 minutes, but of course you and I can't do that. So I'm sorry that we ran a little over, and I hope it doesn't disturb your next guest and your schedule, but it was a great show, Paul. Thank you so much. Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, everyone. This has been such an amazing worship summit. I am so excited that this is a 2-day event. So today, we got some great information. We talked about camera positions. We talked about working with volunteers, lighting. Jake did an amazing job. I can't believe what he's doing with lighting in his church. Allan giving us a full rundown of his system and what he does to stay up and running and current. And then finishing off with Gary talking about the importance of really investing in hardware that will support your future needs. It is time, and I've got a winner, and I just need to check to make sure. Daryl Knight, are you here? Daryl Knight would be the winner of a Move SE camera. If Daryl's here, then Daryl is the winner. If not, we will pull a new winner because you do need to be here. So let us know if you're here, Daryl. And if you are, then you win. If not, we do need to pick. It looks like. Just say hi, Daryl. Just let us know you're here. He's here. Okay, Daryl, you have won the Move SE. Congratulations. We're going to end on a final worship song so we can all appreciate this amazing day that we've been given. And if you can come tomorrow, we've got another full 2 hours, just 2 hours, right? So just 2 hours to hang out, answer questions. So we'll end with one final worship song, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for day 2. Let us know if you like the 2-day format, and we'll see you tomorrow. See ya. Congrats, Daryl. Really happy for you and your church.
We're so honored to be coming into your spaces with you, to worship with you. God is there. He is here. Let's worship him.
The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. My God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. I'm gonna see
let's just keep worshiping this morning.